Speaking of kickboxing, let's get to a couple of questions. That
Ooh,
have been
question and
asked
answer time.
around. And the very first one actually has to do with calf kicks, and
Yeah.
people say,
Figured that would be a question.
yeah, because especially now that we just saw the UFC of calf kicks become a game changer in kickboxing. Do you agree with that?
Will they become a game changer if people start using them in kickboxing? This is going to be probably a long-winded answer, but I just think right away you have to understand the difference between the two sports and what happens. In MMA, you don't see low kicks and kicks as much. In kickboxing, you see it all the time. So understanding the range, the distance, the way to block them, how to slip, kind of kickboxers are going to have an advantage of it. Just using my experience, like I've sparred with multiple UFC guys from generations, so many years. The first thing I realized as a kickboxer, when we strike and we're doing our sparring, as soon as I hit legs, like a little low kick. It's almost like my jab, my feeler. As soon as I kick someone's leg, I've been kicking legs for years, so I kind of know how durable your leg is. So I'll hit it once, I'm like, I can finish that leg. Or he can take them. Like you look back, like you go back and look at how many low kicks I gave Nicky Holtzkin. You go look back and give Kareem Gaji how many low kicks I gave him. There's no UFC guys who will be able to take that amount. Those guys had 100 kickboxing fights where they've taken hundreds of thousands of kicks, so their legs are strong and are durable to take it, and they've blocked them, and our stances are a little bit different. Where in MMA, you don't take that constant hitting of the leg, so your muscle doesn't have that endurance to be able to take them. Yeah. The problem is now with the calf kick is most people are conditioned from the knee to the hip. You don't really condition from the knee to the ankle. So it's always a little bit harder to kind of condition that. So now knowing that it is a weapon, people need to start slowly hitting the calf muscle to kind of build in the endurance. So one, the nature of the sport and us being kickers our whole life, we are able to block them a little bit better. Our understanding of kick range and kick defense is a lot better. But the reason why I created a video on why calf kicks are so successful in mixed martial arts. It's because of the small gloves. So in kickboxing, you'll see a lot of good low kicks mixed with punches. That Dutch style, boom, 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 low kick. So it's almost catch, 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 block. You kind of know the rhythm, the cadence, and the timing and the range of the timing of the kicks. But in MMA now, with the small glove, a lot of guys tend to defend by pulling their head back. Right? So by pulling your head back, because it's a 4-ounce glove, you don't want to get hit with that glove. Where if you eat a bigger glove, you can use a wedge and your high guard to block. It's more of a pillar. Block, and it's blocking. So, and I can block my head and I can block my leg kick in a nice stationary pillared position. Yeah. But now with the 4-ounce glove, as soon as I pull my head or I try to evade a punch by moving back, it leaves my lead leg there, which allows my opponent to hit it. So in order to evade those shots, you have to move your head and your foot almost at the same time just to avoid those, you know? But that Conor McGregor fight, what happened was Conor, as I mentioned, is in a bladed stance. And you're fighting southpaw versus southpaw in a bladed stance, right? The side stance. He has to turn his foot all the way here. It's too slow. You're not going to block that. So even if he turns halfway, it's still going to hit the tibialis anterior and it's still going to hurt and shut down, or the soleus. It's going to shut down the leg no matter what. So it's harder to block based on stance, based on the range, because of the small gloves, and just not kicking as much. So I don't think that calf kicks will be a big weapon in kickboxing. Yeah. Okay. I think they're going to be more unique and more successful, and you're going to see them a lot when it comes to mixed martial arts, but I don't think they're going to be, I think they can be an effective weapon, but I don't think they're going to be a game changer. Right. Right? They're going to be very effective. You got to think, you're fighting someone really tall, you know, like one example, I think the only time we've really seen calf kicks being used, and I could be slightly wrong, but I think it was Josh Johnsey fighting Tijani Bestati. Josh Johnsey, you know, a little shorter, Tijani really tall, and Tijani's got these big, you know, shins. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure it was Johnsey attacking those, but I don't think you're going to get those finishes and shutting people down. But again, Conor McGregor is known as an elite striker, and he still got hurt by them. Yeah. But I personally think we're more experienced with kicks. We're more experienced with low kicks, kicking in general, and I don't think they're going to be a game changer. Just effective weapons. Yeah, that makes sense. That just makes sense. Effective. Yeah. Another question that came up has to do with the Philly Shell. Ooh. And
using the Philly Shell in MMA and Muay Thai or kickboxing, I guess, sparring, and having to deal with kicks from that guard.
Okay.
What are some advices you can give to someone who uses Philly Shell?
Dan, good question. That's a very good question. So I don't think you should have one guard in general. That's my big thing. Like, depending on what the fight is, a different guard is going to be better or worse. So if I'm fighting someone who's not kicking me, I might be able to stand a little bit more bladed. Then I'll go into a Philly Shell position because you're not kicking my lead leg. As soon as you kick my lead leg, I'm going to make an adjustment and keep my front foot pointing forward.
Yeah.
So it's the ability to adjust and adapt that makes it a little bit better. But the problem with the Philly Shell is, one, the bladed foot, but the other thing is it leaves the one side, and you have to lean and move your head a little bit in the Philly Shell, right? When you catch, these little catches where I'm turning are getting my head off center line sometimes. So if you start punching to kicks, it's a little bit more harder to block. Mm-hmm. So even if my hand is here, I can lift up and catch. But what happens now if the kick goes on the arm that's
Hits
down?
the arm, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So one, my lead side calf is open, but this side is down. I could catch with this hand or use my shoulder to block, but that's dangerous. You got to think some of the biggest head kick knockouts happen when it hits the shoulder and skips off. Bang.
Bang.
So it
Off, yeah.
skips off the shoulder, hits off the temple, boom, you go out. So it's very dangerous to do with kicking that way. Can you slip and pull or pull and counter? Yes, there's ways it can work, but the key is if you do get hit from that position, you have to be able to adjust and adapt. So it is a little bit more dangerous to use the Philly Shell in kickboxing because of the kicking, the bladed stance, and being able to block the body kicks, but it can be done. And just understanding if it doesn't work, you have to be able to do multiple stances. You can't just fight only Philly Shell in kickboxing.
Yeah. So it's a lot like the calf kick. It's a valuable weapon, I guess, that you can use, but it's not something that you should depend on.
I think you can.
Yeah.
I think it's more effective in MMA than it is in kickboxing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the reason why I say that is because, especially as a striker in MMA, I don't want to have my hands pinned on my head. Okay, with my hands pinned on my head, I can't parry punches, I can't catch, I can't grab. And by having this lead hand high, guess what? It leaves my lead leg and my body open for wrestlers to get under, shoot under, grab their body locks. I'm screwed. Mm-hmm. So I have to keep my lead hand out when I fight MMA. And when I do MMA, I like to almost do a Philly Shell because I can hit up angles. And I can kind of I can sprawl better and I can hit on an up. So a wrestler has to come down. So by keeping my lead hand low, it scares the wrestler from dipping his head down. So it keeps the wrestler away from me, hits that up angle, and it helps me kind of use feinting and ranges a little bit more. So I would use my Philly Shell in MMA more than I would in kickboxing. In kickboxing, it would be more of high guard attack, maybe drop it for a quick second to maybe create a different angled offense or something like that. So kickboxing, I feel it's more effective when you use it to adapt and switch to kind of confuse your opponents, where MMA, I think it can be more of a structured stance to actually compete in more often. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, that makes